This podcast is recorded on stolen and unceded Aboriginal land.
We acknowledge the First Nations and elders of this country and join their calls for justice.
Serious danger to Australia.
Hello, comrades. Welcome to the final instalment of our Meet the Candidate series for Serious Danger before Election Day 2022. Dear God, may you have mercy on our souls. Thanks for watching this. If you enjoy the work that we do here at Serious Danger Incorporated, please help us out. You can go to patreon.com/seriousdangerau. Even if you chip in just $3 a month, that helps us cover the costs of hosting the podcast, paying our lovely producer, myself and Emerald, the other co-host. We're all volunteers because we love you and broadcasting and the Greens and democracy so much. $3 a month. That's all we ask for you. We really appreciate all our current supporters. If you want to be one of them, that would be great. If you can't afford that because there's a cost of living crisis on and capitalism is brutal, etc., just give us a 5-star review on either Apple, on iTunes, or on Spotify. Sorry, I'm very boomer at the moment. Go on to the Apple and give us a 5-star review. That'd be great. And if you're watching this on YouTube, make sure you like and subscribe. That really helps us grow the reach of the show too. All right, joining me for this final installment of this series is the Greens Senate candidate for Victoria. She's the Greens Party spokesperson on First Nations issues, on sport and justice. She's the first Aboriginal senator from Victoria. She's a fucking force of nature. Lidia Thorpe, hello.
Hey, Tom. How you going?
I'm good. How are you? More importantly, we are just 48 hours away from finding out how this election's going to go down. How are you feeling? Are you nervous? Are you terrified? Are you excited?
I'm actually starting to get quite nervous.
Yeah.
I've never ran in a federal election before. So, yeah, it's been a long 6 weeks. A lot has happened in 6 weeks around the world, around our country, around our communities. So, yeah, it just needs to be over and done with, and this government is, clearly has to go. So I can't wait for that.
That's what I was just talking with our producer before we started recording this session. It's like, yeah, obviously I'm really proud. I think the Greens campaign has been pretty fucking great across the board, despite all the challenges that are involved in running as a third party. And there's lots of, things to celebrate there and a lot of things that we can congratulate ourselves on as a party. But, man, yeah, these people just have to go. We have to get even a Labor majority government would be something that would allow us to build from, perhaps, rather than what we have at the moment. That's for sure.
Yeah, well, I think we're looking pretty good. Hey, the feeling on the ground is very positive. I've been to a lot of pre-polls. I went to Bendigo and Castlemaine.
Oh yeah.
Elvis on the main street in Bendigo because of the vibe, the good feeling that we had there as Greens and people bipping their horns. And, yeah, I've not been to a regional town where we had such a positive response. So it's very exciting, and people want change, right? And we are the change that this nation needs.
I heard you interviewed and you've been contacted by a few Aboriginal folks reaching out and saying, I am enrolling to vote for the first time. We have an all Aboriginal, all First Nations Senate ticket for the state of Victoria this time. Pretty momentous achievement for the party and for Australia. And you've actually had that feedback from First Nations people, from other mobs saying, this is it. I have, this has changed my approach to the whole idea of voting and getting involved.
Absolutely, and I think it goes back to something that I said in my first speech in the Victorian Parliament, and that is you can't be what you can't see. And same with participation. Why would you want to participate in a colonial project when blackfellas have resisted it all our lives? So, I didn't push anyone to enrol to vote. I gave them their options. It's up for people to self-determine themselves. But at the same time, we have a real opportunity here to get some, real outcomes on justice for our people. And that means we have to infiltrate the colonial project, take it over and make it what we want it to be with all our allies.
One of those allies is your goddamn mother. We should mention this. Your mum, Marjorie Thorpe, is standing as the Greens candidate in the national seat of Gippsland in regional Victoria. amazing. Mother and daughter team on the Greens ticket in 2022.
Well,
How's she travelling? How's it going?
Funny that you mentioned my mum. She's only just called in to get a quick coffee with her daughter.
Oh,
So
really? What? Hey, hey, Marjorie, how you going? How's your campaign going?
Yes, very well. Very happy with my team.
I
Yeah.
can't believe that. What a crazy coincidence.
There you go. 2 for 1 here.
There you go. All right, people of Gippsland, vote for Marjorie. Everybody could vote for Lydia in the Senate. Well, that worked out well. Oh, you guys are adorable.
The reason why Mum's come back for a cuppa at mine is we just went out and had a look at this incredible mural in Lygon Street, Brunswick, where this incredible Gadigal artist, Jazz Ray, just transformed a photo that he took of me in his studios in Brunswick, and it's just covered this whole wall in Lygon Street.
Oh, my God.
Amazing. Check it out, everyone.
Yeah.
It's just
Go look at Lydia's face. God, I hope someone makes a mural of me one day. That'd be nice. Oh, congrats. That's very cool. People will have to check that out if they're in Melbourne. And look, I want to get onto serious substantive policy stuff in a sec, but I do have to ask, at the moment, at time of recording, everybody's talking about the Scott Morrison tackle. Have you seen it? Some people's theory is that this is a deliberate tackle against a child in order to distract media attention. What is the Lidia Thorpe take on ScoMo tackle 2022?
he could have hurt that young boy. In all seriousness. If I was tackled by a big bloke like that with a big belly and I don't know, he's a pretty big fella.
Yeah.
I'd be frightened of getting hurt. So I actually was more concerned about that young boy's welfare.
Yeah. Apparently he's okay. Apparently he's all right, which is good news.
It's like the epitome of what this country is about, He just goes crashing. He don't care whether you're little or black. He'll just crush you.
He'll crush you. All right. Well, solidarity to that kid. Solidarity to all the victims of Scott Morrison, both on the soccer pitch and off. And let's hope we see the back of him after this Saturday. You are, of course, the party spokesperson on First Nations issues. You're a long-time First Nations justice activist. Is what drives your politics. Is obviously a huge part of who you are. And the First Nations policies this election are pretty exciting, pretty extensive. We'll link through in the show notes if people want to look up the policy platform. I really recommend you do it. Really quickly, I'll move through them, then I want to ask you some stuff about it. But we're talking about a Truth and Justice Commission, $250 million for a body with the powers of a royal commission to investigate the historical crimes of colonialism in this country and what has been enacted on First Nations people and trying to determine some justice in that respect. First Nations Health, $371 million for self-determined, community-led First Nations health services, a compensation scheme for stolen generation survivors, a Caring for Country program that's about boosting money for First Nations programs like rangers and better legal protections for traditional owners, and fixing the justice system, which obviously is so important, raising the age of legal responsibility to 14, establishing a First Nation legal defence fund, implementing the recommendations of the Royal Commission into Aboriginal deaths in custody from 1991. Pretty great stuff. Are you talking about these reforms a lot as you're campaigning, and what's been the response you've had out there on the campaign trail for this kind of program, Lidia?
Yeah, absolutely. But, one of the criticisms I do get as a black woman with a black portfolio and a justice portfolio is that I only concentrate on black issues. So,
right.
I'm put in a box, if you like, and that's all people want to see. They haven't scratched the surface, particularly in the justice portfolio, where I'm advocating on a whole range of issues that aren't related. Well, everything's related to us, but, it's specifically about changing legislation that benefits everybody. So I'm talking about the cost of living more than anything because I've seen so many people struggle. I've seen, and it's just getting worse. And in my area of Preston and my old haunt of Collingwood, Fitzroy, Richmond, Clifton Hill, all of the public housing is going. And we have a homelessness crisis. We have a a public housing wait list that's out of control, and we have governments selling off public housing to private developers, which means public housing's gone forever. So, blackfellas are about looking after everybody too, and the cost of living is something that will make all our lives better. And those things are mental health and dental into Medicare in prisons, which doesn't even exist.
I can't believe that. We talked about that on the podcast a little while ago. I had no idea about that. That's insane.
Exactly. So you talk about deaths in custody. We can't even get an Aboriginal health check in the prisons. So there's a lot of, we're dying from preventable diseases and preventable injury and harm. And if we just implemented some measures to ensure that there is oversight, like police ombudsman, to go in there and check out what's going on, and implementing things like the optional protocol against the Convention of Torture. If we only did that, that would save lives immediately, and that'll give the power for an independent body to go in and check out all of the places that hold people against their will, and that includes aged care facilities, that includes prisons, mental health institutions, where we have an independent person or team or department, whatever it looks like, that goes in and ensures that no one is being tortured anymore in this country, because that is, we live in a country that tortures people, and it's just unknown. People don't care. I don't know what it is, but we need real change. And I think with the policies I hold and the policies the Greens hold, we can create that change.
We can do that. Well, I mean, we're torturing kids too. I mean, a good example of what you were talking about there before, justice reforms that would benefit everybody, but disproportionately concern First Nations people because of the structural racism in this country. First Nations people are overrepresented in our prison population. But so raising the age of legal responsibility to 14. Obviously, we think no child, regardless of their race, should be kept in prison under that age. Now, I know that on Monday you did a special edition of The Point on NITV with Linda Burney, who is the Indigenous Affairs spokesperson for Labor. And I was trying to figure this. What is the Labor position on the criminal age of responsibility? Are they saying they'd get it above 10, but no higher than that? What's the go there?
The word is that they're wanting to raise it to 12. Northern Territory are saying that they'll raise it to 12. Right. And myself and advocates who've been working in this space for a very long time won't accept 12. We are demanding that they go to 14. So Linda's bound by her party line. And if you look at the Northern Territory in particular, for them to only want to raise it to 12 means that they'll continue to maintain the power and control of our kids in the Northern Territory, rather than allow communities and elders to have the solutions and have those children back into community. And I know that's a lot of work, but it also is a lot of money, and our people need the resources to be able to make these decisions and have some structure around how they want to do business, not just, send these kids back into community without the supports in place. So it needs to be a process of ensuring that these kids go back to communities that are ready for them and have the resources to be able to do that.
Yeah. Well, I'm really glad we got the time to spend on that, because I think it's important to point to the myriad of issues facing First Nations people and the dire things we need to do, the things that we desperately need to do, rather, to get First Nations justice. But at the same time, I'm conscious of the fact that in this election, when attention is turned to First Nations issues broadly or at all, people want to talk about the Uluru Statement from the Heart. There's been some article and some commentary around the party's position on this and controversy, et cetera, et cetera. I'm sure you're painfully aware of this. For folks listening to this who are on board with the Greens, who want to see the Greens do well, and who we know care about First Nations justice, can you just lay out what is the Greens party position on the Uluru Statement of the Heart, and how did that position sort of come to be? How do we form that position?
So we certainly support the elements of the Uluru Statement, and it's a lovely statement. However, truth-telling is what this country needs to do first and foremost. How can we ask people to vote in a referendum if they don't even understand the true history of this country? So truth is imperative to anything having a positive result. That's what the Victorian Labor government saw as a priority, but it seems the feds want to change what their counterparts in states are doing, which are listening deeply to their local communities who are asking that truth be told. So I'm not sure how they arose to that, but anyway, that's our position, is that we need truth first, and then we need to negotiate a treaty. We're only, one of a few countries in the world that doesn't have a treaty with its First People. So we need to negotiate some kind of settlement. They say they're sovereign, we say we're sovereign. Well, let's negotiate what that looks like. Right. And then let's then negotiate how we go into the Constitution, because it needs to be on our terms. And at the moment it's being rushed. I'm not sure what the question is. No one's told me what the question is, and no one's told me what this body might look like. So it's pretty hard to make a decision when there's no information on what it looks like. So I think we're perfectly placed to watch and see what happens, and to learn more about, well, what are you going to ask the Australian people?
Right. And this, I think, is important to lay this out, because this also did feel like it was missing from the conversation when Adam was asked about this at the National Press Club. And, to be fair, I don't think he mentioned this, but there is a First Nations network which you were instrumental in setting up within the party structure itself, aka is the Black Greens. How does that work, and how did that feed into policy positions on stuff relating to First Nations people?
Absolutely. So we have First Nations Greens right across this country, and I was part of the establishment of that when I first joined the Greens. So I think that's about 4 or 5 years ago now, and it's just grown and grown. We have elders participating. We have young people participating. We have 17 Black candidates across the country. That's more than Labor and Liberal combined. So we're leading the way here, and we go through a process of, we have a national network that meets online once a month on a Sunday, and then those individual states and territories meet on their own. So it's a well-oiled kind of machine. I mean, we have our moments like everybody else, but we're a grassroots democracy. So that means the blackfellas that show up and are members of the Greens, they're the ones that shape the policy. Yeah. We're not dictated to by some leader or some big party that's taking dirty donations. We actually work from the grassroots up, and those blackfellas around the country are having hard conversations and informing their representatives, like me, what to say.
Yeah. Just a final question on this, and then I'll let you get back to your mum and carry on campaigning out there to get the win. I suppose when the rubber hits the road here on this particular issue is okay, this is the Greens party position, the primacy of truth and the idea of getting that Truth and Justice Commission coming up, the idea of encouraging this country to own up and figure out and realise its history, to truly reckon with that being a crucial process in securing justice for First Nations people. If there is either Labor majority government or a Labor minority government, and the Labor Party says we will put this referendum on a constitutionally enshrined voice to Parliament to the people, in that scenario, what would be the Greens' position? Would there actually be the possibility of a situation in which the Greens might join the no campaign on that particular question, or how do you see that potentially playing out?
We won't stand in the way of progress.
Right.
So if it's what the people want and it's progressive, then that's what we will support. But it's really hard to say when we haven't seen the question. And I like to make informed decisions. So, what if the question is, does this country want a treaty? Yay. So it's hard to say when we don't have the question, and I'm sure that when we know more, then we'll have more to say. We need a treaty that will bring seats in Parliament, not a voice to Parliament. We can actually have seats in the Senate, just as the Waitangi Treaty has accommodated First Nations seats in their Parliament. We can do that in a treaty. Rather than have an advisory body, let's have real seats.
Right.
A no-brainer.
Yeah. It's so weird. I mean, like, you propose anything like that and the Andrew Bolts, the crazy Sky News, insane people will lose their fucking mind. But, of course, this happens in other countries all the time, and it's perfectly accepted and recognised as part of a colonial heritage, is having these basic parts of justice and a recognition of other people's sovereignty is considered very normal, but not for Australia. But sorry, this is the actual final question. From this process, there has been coverage on some folks who have left the party over this particular issue. And I don't want to get into like individual cases, but people can have a look. There have been certain people who have just said that from their point of view, their experience in determining the party's position when it comes to voice to Parliament and the Uluru Statement for them meant that they could no longer be in the party and they had to left. These are First Nations members, by the way. I mean, how do you feel about that, or is that just the way that democracy rolls, and that's decisions that those people have taken and that we can respect, or is there something that we can do better there?
Those First Nations people who have allegedly left as a result of the Uluru Statement have never been to a Black Greens meeting. So we weren't aware of any of this until we read it in the paper. Our party is, as I said, grassroots democracy, and it is consensus decision-making. We've not had one person come to a Black Greens meeting where there was no consensus decision-making as an outcome. So it was news to us. Nationally, that was news to us.
Yeah, right. Interesting. If there are First Nations people who are either members of the Greens or want to join the Greens and get involved with the First Nations Network, you can go to firstnations.greens.org.au to find out more. On that page, you will find the Truth Telling podcast hosted by my guest Lidia Thorpe. You've been pumping out a bunch of episodes of that, right? You're enjoying entering the wonderful world of podcasting?
I love it because it's just a yarn.
Yeah.
And I love a good yarn, and I suppose that's one thing that bugs my staff is trying to get me on time, because I'm still yarning at the last event, having to get to the next one. So if I can sit down and, have time allocated to a good yarn, well, I'm there.
Again, we'll link to that in the show notes too. That's called the Truth Telling Podcast with Lidia Thorpe. And of course, most importantly, if you're in Victoria, vote one Lidia Thorpe, vote one the Greens in the Senate, an all Aboriginal Senate ticket in Victoria. Do it. You know how to do it. If you haven't voted yet, do that soon. And if you want to support Lydia's campaign or Victorian Greens campaigns generally, just check out the Victoria Greens website. Again, links in the show notes. Thank you, Lidia. It was great to catch up. Solidarity to you. All the best for Saturday. And can't wait to talk to you on the other side of the election about what's going to happen next for the country.
See you Saturday night.
Whoop, whoop.
Whoop, 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 whoop.
Serious danger to Australia.